Hey guys, we're here to talk about Riverdale, the sexy, dark new take on the Archie characters coming to CW. Look, I know going into this, there are people who just will scoff at the entire concept of what I just said has a thing, but we both enjoyed this show, and we've seen the first 4 episodes. Joshua, what do you think is about Riverdale that makes it work? And this sort of, to some people, very strange new take on this character.
Well, just to address what you're saying is that, Archie comics, there is like wholesome as American apple pie, right? And these like bright colored stories about like innocent high school hijinks and stuff like that, and Archie can't choose which girl to date, and like Jughead entering hamburger contest, but now they're all sexy as sin, and they all have like their dark secrets in this kind of pure, all-American, old-fashioned town that is beginning to show its decay from the inside, and that it works. Everything from the writing, the visuals of how it's shot, to the plot twists, as absurd as some of them may seem, which we'll get to in a second. It all just, it comes together in this wonderful thing. I haven't seen Twin Peaks, but I've heard it's a lot like that.
It does evoke it, you know, because by evoking Archie, which again is something we think of as like being around forever, so they embrace the 50s aesthetic a lot, you know, and everything looks very 50s. The car, even though it's set in modern times, they have cell phones, but a lot of people drive vintage cars. The diner is very 50s.
Yeah, Pop's Chocolate Shop. Yeah. Like the neon of that suddenly takes on like a new meaning as they film it at night.
And it's very, so there's almost like a noir feel. It also feels like Twin Peaks, which also purposely had a sort of weird out-of-time 50s feel to it, even though it was filmed in the 90s. So it does evoke it. But yeah, I just think if you could enjoy a show of this type, and there are people who are just like, no, not for me, because this is a soapy, sort of scandal-y show, but it's very well done. And someone who has enjoyed shows like that in the past, I felt like, they know what they're doing, they're very confident about it, and they get these characters, this version of these characters, I should say, right.
Yeah, and the showrunner, you know, executive producer, writer, Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, he did a little comic called Afterlife with Archie, which was, again, those in the comics world were like, what? And it's Riverdale gets overrun by zombies. And we're like, oh, that sounds like a cheap like gimmick. It's actually one of the best comics that came out, and it's still running. It's still amazing, just what he did with it, of like sort of, like the death of American purity and the destruction of it, and just sort of taking this weird concept, cutting it across classic Archie characters and making something really awesome with it.
I think a lot of people only know the Archie sort of what it is, but they don't know a lot about the comics. And so, I mean, if you look at Archie, they very much have embraced, especially in recent years, all these sort of, I'll say, Elseworlds or what-if type scenarios. So we've had Archie with zombies. We've had Archie fight the Predator. We've had Archie die in a story that was sort of set in its own reality. So the comics have very much embraced the, like, let's take these characters and try different things with them. Let's go down this path while still doing the core, you know, more innocent style, although even that's not exactly what it once was. So to me, this seems, if this show came out maybe 20 years ago, it'd be weirder, but now it's like, no, this is another version of Archie.
And so let's talk about the plot. We've seen the first 4 episodes. We won't go into full spoilers. We'll just touch on some things that have already been promoted. The setup for the show. Which, and I suppose the 2 things for me is that it starts with sort of a death in Riverdale, and it becomes sort of like, well, was it an accident? Was he murdered? And that sort of like murder mystery tension is what propels, at least like for me, like the story forward.
Yeah, I think even Greg Berlanti, they said that he was the one who said that like you have to have a dead body. That was they were missing when they're trying to come up with the show. Like, what is like the hook? He's like, you need a dead body. Greg Berlanti, the producer of all the CW DC shows, this is another one of his shows as well. So that's the kind of through line. Around which all these other characters are having their own personal issues.
Yes, and is it sort of like because this one thing happened, it's sort of causing everyone else's lives to become unraveled. Like because of that, Archie's affair, here's that second thing, Archie's affair with Miss Grundy. Who is now substantially younger than she was in the comic books.
She is a hot young teacher
and hotter.
now.
So that sort of, because they were sort of hooking up near where the murder may or may not have taken place, suddenly they become, that their romance is almost outed because of that. That becomes like a point of contention for them. And so and then like Jughead's sort of like narrating everything.
Again,
for like a
giving
book.
a sort of noir feel because he's giving it this sort of like, here's what's going on in this town sort of feel.
He's like narrating for like a book he's writing about that summer. And so everything is sort of, like mixing and swirling. And then of course Betty, who it's her sister who's like in just sort of like an off like line in passing. Her sister's in like a mental ward
Yeah.
or something, and it's because of Jason Blossom, who was the person who was killed. So everything's like connected in this web, and it's this kind of really intriguing murder mystery.
Yeah, and Veronica's the new girl in town. It takes those archetypes, and I think it has a lot of fun with them. It takes the idea of Betty as like the perfect girl, like the bubbly blonde next door, but now it's like she's got demons, and you know her mom is kind of like pushing her to be a perfect girl in a way that maybe she doesn't want to be. And again, it's all heightened for sure, but it works. You know, I think the show very much embraces what it is. I think Betty and Veronica are actually very crucial to why it works. I will say, we were talking about this earlier, it's like Archie himself might be like the least interesting character on the show. He's like, a lot of things happen around him, but I don't know if he's that interesting himself, at least in these first 4 we've seen.
Yes, I would agree. The stars of the show are the lady characters.
Yeah.
Betty and Veronica, definitely. And also Cheryl Blossom,
Yeah.
who is in her own way kind of like acting out that her brother has died and becomes like this focal figure. And just, she almost seems like aware she's in a subversive take on Archie comics.
Yes.
But she just does it with such pointed conviction that I'm totally on board with it. And any scene with her, I lean forward a little bit because I'm like, uh-oh, crap's going down because Cheryl's on screen. Like,
yeah.
She's almost like a mean girl.
Yeah, and she's the queen bee, she's the mean girl, but her brother just died, so there's a little more, you know, depth there while we're seeing that she's very cruel to everyone. And I just think, yeah, the show, it's riding a fine line, and I always worry with shows like this because we've seen it with OC or even Desperate Housewives, which had a really good first season. It's hard to sustain a show like this. Like, it's easy to burn through story when you're having fun and being a little bit winky with your soapy aspects. So I guess that's a concern for like a potential season 2, but I don't know, I feel like they're doing 13 episodes, they have this murder mystery, and it's just off to such a strong start. Again, you know, it won't be for everyone, but if you're someone who can enjoy this kind of thing, and I do like that sort of dreamlike quality it has, like, you know, you were saying with like the neon and Jughead's narration. Again, I don't want to say it's not Twin Peaks, it's not David Lynch weird, but it's still not quite realistic. I think there's purposely a little skew to
like
it.
the opening shots are even of Cheryl and her brother getting in this boat, and there's sort of like this haze over the lake, and they're both wearing like white with they have this bright red hair, and it's almost like this surreal imagery, and so it takes you in right from the beginning, and this isn't quite. Yeah, like you said, it's a little heightened, but it looks very good. It's one of the best looking shows I've seen.
Visually, yeah, I think it really stands out, especially on network TV and on the CW. So those are our thoughts right now on Riverdale. We both really enjoyed it, but you let us know what you think in the comments. It's debuting this week. There'll be plenty more episodes to come. And for plenty more on all things CW and all things comic book adaptations, keep it here at IGN.